Buckle up, because today's episode is packed with insane accidents, crazy crashes, ridiculous road rage, and even some instant justice. Welcome to Wham Bam Dashcam. Tony was waiting in a left turn lane for his light to turn green so he could make a U-turn. When it did, a pickup driver in the oncoming turn lane ran his red light to go straight. Tony had been watching for anyone who might make a right on red and cut him off, and he hadn't been expecting the pickup truck to go straight from a turn lane, let alone run a red light. The security guard driving the company pickup claimed Tony had been at fault and that he'd had a green light. Even when Tony told him he had a dash cam, he refused to admit to any wrongdoing.
Ran a red light and I have it on video.
When the police arrived, they were all ready to cite Tony for making an improper U-turn, until his wife arrived with a laptop so he could show them his dashcam footage. They then immediately cleared him of any fault and commended him for having a dashcam. His insurance claim is now pending, and he's waiting to see if his Hyundai Santa Fe will be repaired or if it's totaled. Jordan was driving home in the Holden Cruise he'd bought that same week. Watch what happened while he was waiting to turn at a red light. A driver making an unprotected right turn failed to yield to oncoming traffic, causing a head-on collision right in front of Jordan. The two vehicles then narrowly missed him before crashing into two more cars. Jordan parked and checked on the drivers while his partner called emergency services. The two vehicles we see in the initial crash were both totaled, but there were no severe injuries. The driver at fault was a young driver with a restricted license, like a learner's permit, who had a car full of passengers. Illegal in New Zealand, including one in the rear cargo area. Nick was driving in Raleigh, North Carolina when he spotted a garbage truck driving along with a dumpster still raised. By the time he realized what was about to happen, it was too late for him to do anything to warn the driver. The dumpster snagged on several overhead cables, ripping them down, and even hit a traffic light. Nick went back to make sure nobody was hurt, then went to check on the garbage truck driver. After talking to the driver and making sure he was okay, Nick spotted a police car as he was leaving and told the officer what had happened. The road was closed for a few hours, but thankfully, nobody was injured. Watch what happened when this submitter was driving down a highway with a 65-mile-per-hour speed limit. Another driver cut across the highway without yielding to traffic, T-boning our submitter's Toyota Corolla. The car was totaled, and our submitter is still waiting for the insurance claim to be resolved. Matthew was driving in Arizona when he witnessed two other drivers get in a feud. As two lanes merged down to one, a pickup driver in the merging lane refused to yield to the car that was already in the other lane. Matthew sped up to give the car room to stay in front of the pickup, but the pickup driver figured their larger vehicle gave them precedence and also sped up, forcing the Honda driver to enter the oncoming lane to avoid being sideswiped. Rather than slow down and get behind the pickup, the Honda driver then sped down the oncoming lane to get ahead of both it and Matthew's GMC Envoy. Matthew told us he considered contacting the police with his footage, but he never got a good shot of the pickup truck's license plate. Brady was driving down a neighborhood road in his Jeep Wrangler when a lady in a Toyota RAV4 turned across his lane. Thankfully, Brady was able to swerve around the SUV, slamming into the curb in the process. The lady turned around and came back to apologize. Nathan was driving down a snowy Utah highway when he watched a white minivan lose control in the passing lane. The minivan fishtailed for a while before finally hitting the median barrier. It was too dangerous to stop on the highway, so Nathan kept driving. Bowen was headed to a friend's house when he witnessed a black Chrysler barely miss an off-ramp divider. The Chrysler driver cut across a lane and the gore point at the last moment, almost hitting the crash attenuator. Mark was waiting to turn at a traffic light when he watched a pickup driver come flying into the intersection before overshooting his turn and heading straight toward Mark. Thankfully, Mark was able to quickly pull forward and dodge the speeding Chevy by inches, and there was nobody behind him in the turn lane. We sometimes get comments asking why we show so many reckless pickup drivers. The truth is, we're showing you the best clips that have been sent to us. It just so happens that a lot of them involve pickup trucks. If you have a dashcam video to share, send it to us using the link in the description. Speaking of pickup trucks, this submitter was headed back to school after getting something to eat when a pickup driver turned across his lane without even using his turn signal. Our submitter couldn't avoid an accident, and the impact totaled both vehicles, setting off the airbags and breaking one of the pickup's tie rods. When first responders arrived, the pickup driver told the police the accident was our submitter's fault, but they disagreed after seeing our submitter's footage. He told us he's very grateful he has a dash cam. Don't worry, not all our clips are of pickups behaving badly. Jonathan encountered heavy traffic on the highway due to an accident ahead on his way to school. A Tesla driver decided to cut the gore point and use the shoulder to get around traffic and take the next exit. Roll the jingle.
That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive. That Tesla man can't drive.
Austin was towing a 19-foot boat with his Ford F-150, which is important to know when you watch his clip. He was taking his boat to a mechanic on the other side of town when an SUV driver decided to cut through traffic. Austin held down the horn and the brake pedal until his truck came to a stop inches from the SUV. Once the over 4,000 pounds of truck, trailer, and boat had stopped, the SUV driver finally decided it was time to get out of the way. Thomas was headed home at around 1:30 a.m. and was only 2 minutes from his house. As he was driving through an intersection with a green light, another driver ran their red light right in front of him. With no time to react to the red light runner, Thomas T-boned the car at 35 miles per hour. Bystanders called 911, and when police arrived, they breathalyzed the other driver before arresting him for driving drunk. The drunk driver was uninsured, and Thomas only carried liability insurance, so in total, he only received $4,500 in compensation after losing a $6,000 car and paying $3,000 in medical bills. The drunk driver was ordered to pay Thomas over $6,700 in restitution. Mr. Fox was in Kentucky when he watched the Ford Explorer ahead of him run a red light right in front of a Kentucky state trooper on a traffic stop. The trooper abandoned the traffic stop to serve the SUV driver with some instant justice. Watch what happened when this submitter was driving his Kenworth semi-truck down the highway at about 70 miles per hour. Our submitter's swinging trailer forced him to cross the entire highway to avoid losing all control. He pulled over, as did the other driver, a non-English speaker who used a translator to apologize. Check out what happened to the cargo. Autumn was at a car meet with her boyfriend when another driver backed into her boyfriend's Nissan 370Z. The other driver exchanged insurance info with them, but ironically, only his car was damaged in the collision. I hope you're wearing your seatbelt. Damien was driving on a rainy evening in Houston when he lost control and spun completely around. He's thankful the drivers behind him were paying attention and slowed down. Felix was driving in Toronto when he and the minivan driver ahead of him both planned to make it through a green light. Watch what happened when the driver ahead of them chose to stop instead. When the minivan driver slammed on his brakes, Felix did the same and lost traction on the slick road surface. They both pulled over to check for damage, but they couldn't find any. They both agreed that the driver of the car in front of them was an idiot and went their separate ways. Kevin was on his way to check on his mom's dogs while she was out of town when he noticed a Nissan driving sideways. A BMW driver changed lanes without looking, pit maneuvering a Nissan and sending it down a hill. Kevin pulled over to make sure everyone was okay, and both drivers were impressed with the quality of his dashcam footage. The Nissan driver later told Kevin his car is most likely totaled, as it drove over a huge log on its way down the hill. Gary has a question for you. Why did the chicken cross the road? So he could get featured on Wham Bam Dashcam, of course. Too bad nobody told that chicken about our newest channel. It's a lot safer to be captured on a security camera. Go subscribe to Wham Bam Security Cam.